Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Planned Parenthood of the Southern Finger Lakes, a Time to Build, Bring It Home celebration.
People who are chipping away at everything we've fought for. Waiting periods, buffer zones. Yeah. We are not turning back. Right. You got it. The field is bright with clover. We can see the finish line. Forever getting bolder, our victory defined. We thought the race was over, but they just keep moving the line. The Supreme Court decision about Hobby Lobby. Right. Determined and persistent, secure in our design. We'll deal with all resistance. You can see it in our spines. We know we go the distance, but they just keep moving the line. Meet the opposition, and we're ready and we're prepped. Gonna beat the competition, cause they just keep moving the line. We've handled every corner, each bump along the track. From Roe v. Wade, we all know, well, there was no turning back. We want a photo finish for women. Building for our future, and we know where and when. Our campaign is completing, our efforts all combined, and we always love repeating, thanks to you we're doing fine. There's no chance of retreating if they just keep moving that line. Every time we'll give them some direction.
Please welcome Planned Parenthood Board Chair Linda Jolly.
Well, welcome everyone. I'm so pleased to see so many Planned Parenthood supporters here tonight. Planned Parenthood of the Southern Finger Lakes has been providing our region with health care and honest, accurate education for nearly 50 years. I've been on the board now for 3 years, and I'm pleased to serve as the board chair. While I've always known that this organization does exceptional work, my service on the board has given me greater insight into the deep commitment and genuine caring that our staff bring to every person we serve. It's also a privilege to serve side by side with board members whose passion and leadership inspire me. While the work that goes on inside our buildings is truly extraordinary, our facilities haven't always reflected our respect for our clients or our commitment to their care. Except for renovations to the Elmira Center in 2007, it had been decades since major investments were made in our facilities. Our centers were overcrowded, aging, and expensive to maintain. Well, we're here tonight to tell you that that all has changed. 1 year ago, we officially launched our capital campaign, A Time to Build. The campaign's goal was to raise $6,350,000, an unprecedented amount for this organization. This campaign grew out of a long-term plan developed in 2010. With the Elmira Center renovations complete, our goal was to position ourselves to provide quality care in every community in which we operate for at least the next 20 years, and to provide that care in facilities that fully reflect the quality of care that we provide inside every day. The plan had 3 key goals: double the space at Hornell, construct a new health and education center in Ithaca, and create a new health and education center in Corning. We are thrilled to report that 2 of those 3 objectives have been achieved. Our new health center in Hornell opened in 2012, and just this summer we began seeing patients in the new Ithaca Center. And tonight we bring the campaign home to Corning. It's now Corning's turn, and we are very excited to make the new Corning Center a reality. As many of you know, Corning is the birthplace of Margaret Sanger, mother of the birth control movement. And like many great leaders, Martha knew the power of a story. The women she saw in her clinics and the letters she received from around the country gave her an abundance of real-life experiences that she used to educate the public. We will hear some of those stories tonight. Margaret Sanger also had her own story. She was deeply affected by her mother's 18 pregnancies. When her mother died at the age of 49, Margaret was forced to drop out of school to care for her younger brothers and sisters. With the help of 2 older sisters, Margaret was able to go to nursing school and then began work on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. After caring for so many women who, like her own mother, had experienced the trauma and suffering of too many pregnancies and yet had no ability to avoid another, Margaret had had enough. She shifted her attention away from nursing and to the fight for legal and safe birth control. She then spent the next 50 years taking on government, the religious establishment, and organized medicine, and all those in society that would keep women in ignorance. She was arrested, harassed, and ostracized, but she never gave up. And she never forgot the women or the rights for which she was fighting, and neither will we. So this evening is all about honoring our unique history, celebrating how far we have come as an organization, and acknowledging the fight isn't over. Most of all, tonight is an invitation to each of you to join us in this important movement and to end this campaign so that we can together create the future of Planned Parenthood. Thank you for coming.
Dear Mrs. Sanger, would you kindly tell me how I could learn the safe way to prevent childbirth? I have 1 little boy, but I wouldn't want to have any more till we could afford to keep them. I do not want as many as my mother had or my mother-in-law. My mother had 11 children, the last at the age of 36, and it was the last as she died giving birth. That was 10 years ago. I was 13 years old and have had to take care of all 9 of them myself. There is a brother older than me, but I am the oldest girl, so it was up to me to quit school and take care of the home and the children. That was no life at all. I am married now, so please, help me to not be repeating my poor mother's sad fate.
This letter is for Mrs. Margaret Sanger. I am 23 years old. I have been married 5 years. I am the mother of 3 living children, the oldest 4 years old. I have had 2 miscarriages since the birth of my last child. The 2 miscarriages have been harder on my health than having 2 children would have been. I haven't as yet recovered from the last one. My doctor is one of the best surgeons here and has attended me in all of my illnesses since childhood. He says that I must submit to an operation as a means of preventing pregnancy, or else lose my life in a few short years. I have asked my physician repeatedly for information concerning a means of preventing pregnancy, but he absolutely refuses to help except to operate. I would so love to live and raise the 3 babies I have. I am affected with anemia and doubt very much if I would survive an operation. Besides, at my age, only 23, I do so hate to submit to one. Surely there is help for me. Will you send me information concerning a means of birth control? Is there anything you could tell me or send me or that you could tell me to get?
Mrs. Margaret Sanger. I'm 46 years old. My wife is 44. We've been married 27 years and have raised 10 living children, and my wife is expecting another. We've had no deaths, no sickness to mention. Our sexual relations are just as enjoyable and just as necessary as 27 years ago. The only thing that ever stood in the way of our happiness was the fear of conception. That fear done us no good, as our record shows. We were always glad and willing to raise our share of babies and are proud of the record, but we think that 11 is really more than our share. And there is perhaps several years yet of the bearing period. All the books, all the doctors I've ever consulted have never offered any workable remedy. Must this go to the end? We have not now nor ever had any desire to avoid my duty, but we really think we've done our share.
To Mrs. Margaret Sanger. My mother is of the old German type, and she said everybody could and should have as many children as they can, even if it kills them. She is a good mother. But I don't think it's right to raise children like cattle and then throw them to the street or the poorhouse to be brought up or to die. If I could get one good contraceptive that would not fail and would be sure so I would not become pregnant again, I would surely be glad. Then I could give my husband my true love and do my children justice. Thank you.
Please welcome Tompkins County Tri-Chairs Jean Gortzik, Katie Thompson, and Sandy True.
Good evening, everyone. So nice to see you. Welcome to all of you, and thank you for being here tonight. Tonight is a time to be reminded of how Planned Parenthood came to be, why it continues to be such an important part of our communities, and that's plural. And tonight is also a celebration of how far we have come. I can't tell you how touched and inspired I have been by the stories I've heard from the amazing donors I have spoken with over the course of this campaign. Women and men who have a personal reason for supporting Planned Parenthood. While the circumstances have changed from Margaret Sanger's time, the human needs remain the same, and I feel honored to be raising money for this important cause and giving others an opportunity to express their appreciation for our work through their gifts. Ding, 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 okay. Our Planned Parenthood buildings in all our communities are a beacon of hope for so many. Our presence, our name, and our mission are critical to our future generations. Please join me as we ensure that Planned Parenthoods remain a part of our communities as we advocate for all. In Margaret Sanger's words of November 10th, 1939, when thanking a supporter, and I quote, "Again, my heartfelt gratitude to you for your faith in our endeavors and your help to those who so greatly need it." Thank you.
What a pleasure it is to be with all of you this evening. And I certainly echo Sandy's comments. Some of you may know that my work with Planned Parenthood spans over 4 decades. And it began with the exploration of establishing a Planned Parenthood in Ithaca back in the late 60s. This has been an immensely important part of my life, and Carl's as well. Through this campaign, we've had the opportunity to share with many of our friends and neighbors not only the important work of Planned Parenthood is doing today, but also the great hopes that we have for the future. The response has been overwhelming and extraordinarily moving, and there have been many tears of joy. As Linda mentioned, this campaign is truly an affiliate-wide effort to update all the facilities to a more modern and professional level. It reflects a deep commitment by Planned Parenthood, its board members, staff members, and supporters to improve the quality of our health centers across our four-county region. The projects are big, but we know the impact will be even bigger. And I'm thrilled to announce that we have raised $5.7 million. That's over 90% of our $6.35 million fundraising goal. A big thank you to all who have helped us get to this point. We are thrilled with the progress to date. We also know that the last lap in every race is the hardest. It's critically important that we not only reach our goal, but that we push past it. Every dollar we raise beyond the goal of $6.35 million will further strengthen Planned Parenthood's future and our continued ability to serve our clients with exceptional care, honest education, fearless advocacy.
Good evening. My name is Katie Thompson. I can honestly say that Planned Parenthood has changed my life. I have worked on behalf of this cause for close to 30 years, and this campaign has been really just so much fun. I've been proud to see each and every one of our facilities be transformed with care and thoughtfulness. In Ithaca, we've been working on creating a new health and education center for over 20 years. And to see it finally rise from the ground to become such a beautiful and functional home has been one of the most gratifying experiences of my life. Sandy, Jean, and I, along with our entire Tompkins County committee, are so excited to be here tonight to celebrate with all of you the final phases of both the long-term building plan and the campaign. On behalf of all of our campaign co-chairs, I'd like to give a special thanks to our campaign committees, both in the Southern Tier and in Tompkins County, for their incredible work over the past many months. They are so committed to seeing this dream become a reality, and we really couldn't be here tonight celebrating this milestone if it weren't for all of them. So now, let's take a look at the journey we've been on and how tonight we can all together now bring it home.
The spirit of social justice runs deep throughout our region. We have a long history of producing trailblazers in the areas of advocacy and women's rights. Just up the way in Seneca Falls, New York, it was the Seneca Falls Convention and the Declaration of Sentiments established therein that became the single most important factor in spreading the news of the women's rights movement around the country, ultimately securing the right of women to vote. And it was right here in Corning, New York, that Margaret Sanger, mother of the birth control movement, was born and raised. Margaret felt passionately that in order for women to lead healthy and productive lives on more equal footing, they needed to be able to determine when to bear children. In 1916, Margaret opened the first birth control clinic in the United States. 9 days later, she was arrested for distributing information on contraception. Undeterred, Margaret kept at her work, and a few years later, in 1921, she co-founded the American Birth Control League, which later became the Planned Parenthood Federation of America, with Katharine Houghton Hepburn. Catherine, a member of the Houghton family that founded Corning Glassworks, was actively involved in the women's suffrage movement and became a collaborator and confidant of Margaret Sanger's. She worked tirelessly to promote access to birth control for many, many years. These women were remarkable and received national attention for their efforts. But they weren't alone. In the 1940s, women across the country stepped up in exceptional ways as men were deployed to fight in World War II. In addition to taking care of their homes, these women worked in the positions male workers had left vacant. Here, Corning Incorporated celebrates the women of the Southern Tier who did so much for the company and for their country. There have been other victories. In the middle to late 60s, so much was happening to further the women's movement. In 1970, President Nixon took it one step further by signing Title X into law. Title X's overall purpose is to promote positive birth outcomes and healthy families by allowing individuals to decide the number and spacing of their children. These days, it would be hard to imagine Title X moving through Congress and getting signed into law without significant debate. But in 1970, the Senate passed Title X unanimously, and the House voted 298 to 32 to pass the bill on to Nixon. What a great example of bipartisan support. Also in 1970, Ithaca resident and Republican state assemblywoman Connie Cook co-authored a bill signed into law that legalized abortion in New York State 3 years before the Roe v. Wade decision was issued by the Supreme Court. Assemblywoman Cook's bill didn't pass as smoothly as Title X did. The Assembly was deadlocked at 74 in favor of the bill and 74 opposed. It wasn't until George Michaels, an assemblyman from Cayuga County who represented a largely conservative Roman Catholic district and had earlier voted against the proposal, rose to speak and said, "I realize, Mr. Speaker, that I am terminating my political career, but I cannot, in good conscience, sit here and allow my vote to be the one that defeats this bill." And in so doing, the measure passed. And the great victory in 1973, when the young attorney pictured here, Sarah Weddington, argued the case for Roe in Roe v. Wade, the Supreme Court issued its decision on January 22, 1973, with a 7-2 majority vote in favor of Roe, which legalized abortion nationwide. Unfortunately, the past 41 years have brought much tumult and turmoil to the reproductive rights movement. We've seen violence at health centers, attacks on the right of women to safe legal abortions, both at the national level and at the state level. In fact, it's hard to believe, but there were more state abortion restrictions enacted from 2011 to 2013 than in the entire previous decade. Texas legislator Wendy Davis and her pink running shoes made headlines last summer when she engaged in an 11-hour filibuster to block legislation that would significantly limit access to abortion for Texas women. Over the past few years, the debate has shifted, threatening even access to birth control. In this past year alone, we've seen 2 Supreme Court decisions that could ultimately affect women's access to contraceptives and reproductive health care, the buffer zone and Hobby Lobby rulings. This at a time when the need for effective contraceptive use is greater than ever, as women wait longer to have their first child, and the use of birth control has expanded to help manage other health concerns. The work started by Margaret Sanger, raised here in Corning, still requires all of us to diligently guard the rights that have been gained while there is continuing opposition and effort to undo them. Tonight, we bring it home to Corning, to you, to all of us who are the standard bearers in the current fight for reproductive rights. Our call to action could not be more clear. Let's make sure that the people who turn to us for preventive health care, cancer screenings, and contraception continue to have access to our services regardless of their ability to pay for them. Let's empower our youth to make healthy and safe decisions regarding their bodies and relationships. And let's make sure that our health centers reflect on the outside the high-quality, compassionate care that happens every day on the inside. Margaret Sanger once said, "It is not enough to look backward with pride, justified as that pride may be. We must look forward with hope and confidence too. The real lesson of the past is that it shows us what can be done for the future. It is time for us to harness our history and build a movement. And it is time for us to bring it home.
Please welcome Southern Tier Tri-Chairs Alan Houston, Ian Harrop, and Annie Werner.
What a great legacy and call to action. Those are some just wonderful stories. I'm Alan Houston. I'm one of the co-chairs of the Steuben Tier Capital Campaign Committee for PPSFL. It's just a great, great pleasure to be with all of you here tonight and to see so many devoted Planned Parenthood followers, and especially those that are here with us in pursuit of such a great goal. Great progress has been made to date in the capital campaign. We stand absolutely on the shoulders of our Tompkins County colleagues. We've also had a great start here in the Southern Tier, but now, as you've heard several times, it's really time to bring this home. And we have a wonderful announcement for this evening. A very generous couple, who's asked to remain anonymous, has pledged $100,000 to this campaign to be used for matching gifts. Starting tonight, every pledge from $1,916 to $19,160 will be matched dollar for dollar from this fund. Now, this challenge starts now, and it goes through the end of December, through December 31st. And you've got to be asking why this unusual range of $1,916 to $19,160. And let me turn the podium over to co-chair Annie Werner to explain what this is. Thank you very much.
Good evening. I'm Annie Werner, the third co-chair on the Southern Tier campaign team. And Alan is right. $1,916 is an odd number, so let me explain. We have heard a lot tonight about Margaret Sanger, her work, and her Corning connections. It was in 1916 that Margaret opened the first birth control clinic in the United States. So we thought what more fitting way to honor her work and close this campaign than to remind everyone of our deep roots and important history. If you are interested in participating, and we sure hope you will, there is more information in your folders about this opportunity to use your dollars for double the impact. If you have already made a gift to this campaign, this donor will match any second gifts as well. If you have any questions about the challenge, just ask any of members of the committee or the staff, and we'll be more than happy to help. We'll also have information on our website, so you can check that out as well. Those of you who commit to making your gift this evening will get a special treat. The newly released book, The Birth of the Pill, How Four Crusaders Reinvented Sex and Launched a Revolution by Jonathan Eig, will be yours, hot off the press. So, Ian, I think it's your turn to take over the...
Thanks, Amy. Good evening. On behalf of Annie, Alan, and all of the wonderful volunteers that we have working on the capital campaign, especially with regards to the focus here in the Southern Tier, thank you. I would also like to express a tremendous amount of gratitude to Sandy, Katie, and Jean for the trailblazing work that they have done in Tompkins County. The united front that these communities have in providing access to good health, education, with regards to Planned Parenthood, and I think sometimes we lose sight of those two words, Planned Parenthood, and to make sure that we are standing on the shoulders, bravely, of those who have come before us, as well as standing next to those who every day show up to work to provide the access that so many desperately need. This is an opportunity to show our appreciation. I'm going a little bit off script here, and I'll share with you a little bit secret with regards to what's in front of me here. There's a lot of little notes that says, in the event that Ian doesn't show up. And so instead of me reading here and then all of a sudden said, in the event Ian doesn't show up. And that's because I've been traveling today, and I think I'm right now in about my 22nd hour awake. So hang in there with me. But anyhow, when you listen to the young ladies that were giving us a little bit history lesson, I think too often we think that that will never happen again. This week in the newspapers, those of you who are reading more than the Ebola scare in the world press, there is a really rigid set of laws that have been passed in Brazil as it relates to abortion and birth control. And there have been some horrendous botched jobs and some absolutely terrible incidents that have happened. And the laws that actually were passed in Brazil are more liberal than what some are advocating in the US. So if we think we will not repeat the past, that will only happen if we remain vigilant to making sure that what was achieved is actually sustained. And the way we can do that is by making sure we are providing the access that this campaign is working so diligently to help us achieve. So when you stand with this organization, you're doing more than just sustaining what so many have worked to accomplish. You're providing benefits for those who are, many of the younger folks in this audience. So give generously. And those of you who have already given, think about giving some more. That never hurts. Those of you who are yet to contribute, think about doing that with a generous heart, because you are doing our community a world of good. So again, on behalf of Alan, Annie, and all those who are working so diligently to bring it home, let's do so and bring it home with the roar, as Jean was mentioning, going beyond the $6.3 million so that we can put this organization on solid footing. So thank you so much for coming out this evening. And this evening is just a start for you to remain that passionate supporter of Planned Parenthood. Thanks again.
Are you excited?
Oh, yes, Mom. Thanks for this. Oh, a shopping spree. Oh, and thanks for coming with me to my appointment at Planned Parenthood today.
Oh, you're welcome. After all, you're making me a grandmother. It's the least I could do. Oh, I have so many plans for her. Or him.
Him. I'm sure you do, and I know you don't just mean ballet lessons or soccer practice.
Oh, you know me well.
Well, you are my mother. Have been my whole life. You know, I remember the first time you took me to Planned Parenthood. You told me it was so I could be better informed, and I definitely was. I was able to plan this pregnancy. But I always had a sneaking suspicion that you really wanted to help my girlfriends whose mothers or caregivers couldn't or wouldn't give them accurate information. You wanted to give them a chance to get better educated about birth control and STDs.
I'm busted. You got me. But Planned Parenthood was a great option, and it didn't take too much convincing on my part. Those parents were grateful.
Oh, yes, you've always been a leader, Mom.
Well, I always wanted there to be services available for me and other women, and certainly for you. And now, your child will have soon
a place to go for a lifetime.
Oh, yeah. How is that campaign going?
Very well. People have been very generous, and we're well on our way. You know, it feels just right that the people of Corning and the Southern Finger Lakes are making this extraordinary campaign effort. And I love that we can bring it home.
Yes. Mom, I'll ask this again. Is there anything I can do? Is there anything left to be done?
Oh, there's always something to be done. We're close to our goal, but you could talk to your friends and tell them about our campaign and ask for their support. Or you could work on a committee. There's always lots of volunteer opportunities. Because everything we do helps to bring it home.
You are such an inspiration, Mom.
Right on, sister.
Right on, Mom.
Please welcome Planned Parenthood CEO Joe Sammons.
Home. Home is a very powerful word. It's a very personal word. Home is the place where our journey begins. And in the best of all worlds, home is a place of caring, of safety, and respect. And even if home isn't four walls and an address, there is a special place that each one of us deserves, a place that supports us and nourishes us as we take those first steps out into the world. 100 years ago, Margaret Sanger took those steps, leaving her home in Corning, New York, and ultimately creating a new home for countless women and men who would be touched by the organization she created, Planned Parenthood. And tonight, we celebrate our own journey, the Time to Build campaign that we started so that the work that Margaret Sanger started could continue for years in the future. It is hard to imagine what this world would look like today if Margaret Sanger had not started that journey so long ago. And it's even harder to imagine what our world might look like tomorrow if we hadn't started ours. Just a few moments ago, you saw a glimpse of what the world looked like when Margaret Sanger began her journey. A world where women did not have the right to vote. When you went to jail just because you gave information about birth control. But Margaret Sanger had a vision. She had a vision for a better world. And she had the courage and the tenacity to stand up for that vision and make it a reality. And today, Planned Parenthood is the largest provider of sexual and reproductive health care in the country. 4 million people are served in 700 health centers all across the country, and 3 million more are served by our education and community programs. And here in the Southern Finger Lakes, where it all started, we serve tens of thousands of people every year in 5 health centers. We treat every single one of them with care, and we treat them all with respect. Our education and community programs see almost as many young people outside the health centers as we see inside, and that's a really important thing to us in a rural area like ours. And the goal of those programs is simple: to combat the shame and the stigma that so often wraps around sex and sexuality by providing honest education, by providing services for the LGBT people in our community, by fighting back against teen pregnancy and giving people the information they need. And all throughout the Southern Tier, we provide a safe place for victims of sexual assault as they begin their own journey to healing and to justice. Planned Parenthood has come a long way since the days of Margaret Sanger, and I'll bet you she'd be proud, and she'd be pretty amazed at the work that we're doing right here in her own hometown. But I'll bet you also that she would know, just as we do, that we have a long way to go. We are witnessing, as you saw a couple of minutes ago, an unprecedented assault on sexual health and reproductive freedom in this country. 42 states last year passed laws to roll back the clock and take away a woman's right to a safe, legal abortion. Texas and North Carolina rammed legislation through in the middle of the night designed to close virtually every health center in those states. And in Texas, just 3 months after their law became in effect and dozens of health centers closed, the rate of self-induced termination of pregnancy almost doubled. Doubled. So what Ian was talking about is actually already happening in this country. And we woke up this summer and watched the Hobby Lobby Supreme Court decision where they said that a private corporation could tell women that they can't have coverage in their health insurance for birth control. 97% of women in this country use birth control. And the law of the land says companies don't have to fund it through their health insurance programs. The sad and the tragic fact is that today, women have fewer rights and less access to care than they had 5 years ago and 10 years ago. But Planned Parenthood is standing up. We know that we have to fight in every courthouse, in every capital, because we know that this combination of money and misguided morality and midnight maneuvering at state capitals cannot erode decades of progress. We are not going to let it happen here or anywhere in the country. What we need isn't just courage. What we need isn't just the tenacity to fight for what's right. We also need a vision. We need a vision for a better future. And that's what the Time to Build campaign, in the end, is all about. We know that we need to have professional and welcoming health centers that show how proud we are to be Planned Parenthood. Centers that will welcome people of all ages, the insured and the uninsured, patients who are looking for the expert and compassionate care that only Planned Parenthood can provide. We know that we need to grow our education and community programs, integrating them with our health centers so that we can create unique spaces all around the affiliate where here there is no shame, where here there is no stigma. And we know that we have to build sustainability. We have to reduce our reliance on government grants. We have to decrease overhead costs, increase capacity. We have to create a business model that will advance the fundamental value proposition that we hold dear, and that is simply this: women's health matters. Sexual and reproductive health care matters, and we're going to make sure it does in this region for a long time to come. That's the vision we have for the future, and that's what we're building now. In 2007, we opened our renovated health center in Elmira that had a beautiful and professional waiting room, increased exam rooms, and connections with our education and community programs, and visits at that site increased by double digits for 5 years in a row. We opened our first health center in Hornell in 2012, and we increased the size of that facility by double, but we reduced our operating costs. And today, in that rural community, we saw 15% more visits than we did before we opened that health center. And this summer, we are proud to have opened our Ithaca Health and Education Center, dream of that community for 2 decades. A center that has a beautiful private waiting room, welcoming exterior, almost double the capacity within that building, and absolutely amazing spaces upstairs for education and community programming. We said, when we started this campaign, we said we were going to build in every single community that we serve, and we meant it. And now it's Corning's turn. Our Corning Health Center is overcrowded, and it doesn't reflect on the outside the quality of care, the respect for our patients that we provide every single day on the inside. And you know what? This is the home of Margaret Sanger. It should, and it will. Our agency, our capital campaign team, has gone out and looked for spaces within Corning where we can have our new home, a home with plenty of parking, with privacy, with room to grow and integrating all of our education and community programs. And we found that home just a few blocks away from here at 35 West William Street. And I am proud to announce that this week, Planned Parenthood of the Southern Finger Lakes put in a purchase offer to buy that home. We're going to create our space there, and we're going to open that facility in 2015, next year. But we know that this isn't just a campaign about buildings. We know it isn't just about money or the movement that we're all a part of. This ultimately is about creating a home for the patients that we serve in our health centers and the people that we serve in our communities, and what that home means to them, what it means to us. We know this is about the young women who come into our health center, sometimes for the first time in their life without having mom or dad with them when they're seeing a doctor. And they want care that's not judgmental. They want high-quality, respectful care, and they get it at Planned Parenthood. This is about the men who are increasingly coming into our health centers looking for confidential testing or services, or, how about this, simply looking to be a partner in a healthy relationship. And this is about the young people who see our educators in schools or community centers, who listen and who ask questions. Now, sometimes they ask them nervously, as the educators will tell you. But sometimes they ask them with an incredible strength, because they know that with the right information, they have the right and they have the power to make good decisions for them, for their bodies, for their lives. These are the people whose lives are touched by the work that we do. These are real people who live real lives, and they have to make real decisions. And our opponents may want to try to take those decisions away, push those lies back to the 1950s, and they may win some headlines along the way, but they can never win the hearts of those who care, those who know that politicians don't have any business being in our exam rooms, and they certainly have no business being in our bedrooms. At Planned Parenthood of the Southern Finger Lakes, we have a better, more positive vision for the future. We know that we can create homes, respectful, safe homes for our patients. We know that we can have the movement that moves us forward, not backward. And we're doing that work right now. The 3 health centers that we talked about tonight, the Hornell Health Center, Ithaca, and here in Corning, will cost this agency $8.1 million, for which we set a fundraising goal of $6.35 million. And as you heard tonight, we are so deeply humbled to announce that we've reached 90% of that goal, an absolutely astounding $5.7 million. On behalf of all of the staff and the board, let me tell you, for every single one of you who have given so generously, thank you. We really are appreciative. It's amazing. But of course, we do have to bring this home, and we need your help to get there. The truth is that as you see the finish line coming into view, you realize that the next steps of the journey are the hardest, but they're also the most important, because we know that philanthropy is an investment where lives, not profits, are at stake. We know that as we wrap our Time to Build campaign home, we can see that that investment has already made an impact in real communities and on real lives. Across this country, with all the attacks on Planned Parenthood, we can say here in the Southern Finger Lakes, we are not closing health centers, we're building them. We can say that we are not walking away from education and community programs, we are investing in them. And we are certainly not walking away from our patients or their rights. We are recommitting to the mission that Margaret Sanger started so long ago right here in Corning, New York, a mission and a movement that matters. And that's what we're doing with this campaign. In the end, this campaign and all of this work is about home. And home is a very powerful word. It's a place where our movement started. It's a place of care, safety, and respect for our patients. And it is a place where there is no shame and where there is no stigma. And for each one of us, home is a goal. It's an aspiration that we point to. A place that when we reach it, we know that we have done everything in our power to make this world a better place. With your help, we can reach that goal. Let's bring it home. Thank you.
Go out and tell our story, let it echo far and wide, make them hear you, make them hear you. How justice was our battle and how justice was denied, make them hear you, make them hear you. And Say to those who blame us for the way we chose to fight, that sometimes there are battles which are more than black or white. And I could not put down my sword when justice was my right. Make them hear you. Make them hear you. Go out and tell our story to your daughters and your sons. Make them hear you. Make them hear you. And tell them that we were not the only ones. Make them hear you. Make them hear you. Your sword can be a sermon or the power of the pen. Teach every child to raise his voice, and then, my brothers, then will justice be demanded by 10 million righteous men. Make them hear you. When they hear you, I'll be near you again.
Wow, what an evening this has been. My name is Alicia Canale, and I'm the Vice President of Development and Public Affairs at Planned Parenthood. A very big thank you to the Ithaca Gay Men's Choir, all of our performers, the event catering and technical teams at CMOG, and our volunteers and campaign committees, everybody who has made this night so special. Let's have another round of applause for them. I'd like to do a special shout out to the incomparable Rachel Lampert, Artistic Director of the Kitchen Theater Company, who has generously donated her considerable time and talent to make this event extraordinary. Rachel, I've loved every minute working with you, and she's up there, so let's give her a round of applause. Woo! It's my pleasure to conclude this evening's program. I hope you'll join us for drinks and desserts in the lobby. If you have any questions about the campaign or are interested in making a gift, I will be in the lobby, as will the whole development team and our campaign leadership. We'd be happy to answer any questions you have. You also have a full suite of campaign materials in the folders on your tables. I also have a note on my hand from Stuart that the bus will be departing from a different location, so please find your bus host, and he or she will direct you to the appropriate location. Thank you so much for celebrating with us this evening. We are so grateful for your spirit and your support. Good evening.